Hello, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com, talking with you today about interpreting reality shifts and meeting a guardian of time and space. So the question I want to start with to contemplate is, are Mandela effects trying to tell us something? And if so, what might that be? And this is a question I actually received recently from someone reading my newsletter and watching these videos and observing that sometimes things appear, they disappear, they come back, they change color, and specifically, what on earth does this mean if something like that happens? Either a personal Mandela effect, something we might call a reality shift, or just one of those things, or disappearing object phenomenon. We have lots of names for the whole phenomenon, but Mandela effect is pretty common. And I wanted to share my process for how to find the meaning. Absolutely, we can find the meaning in these things, even things that might seem random, they might seem like just the color changed or something vanished and came back. And the reason that I come from this approach is basically the philosophy that the cosmos springs fundamentally from consciousness. What that means is that we can begin to understand and appreciate we are in constant communication with all that is. And so this is constantly happening, and it's something that we can engage in, especially when we notice the reality shifts and Mandela effects. And so when the person asked me that question and I replied, I did respond with a basic approach, which is using a 4-step process that I also use when I interpret dreams. And the reason I use them also for Mandela effects and reality shifts is because life is like a dream, as I point out in my book, Reality Shifts. So some people call it a simulation. Whether you call it a simulation or a dream, the point is that fundamentally, consciousness itself is the driving impulse, the force, the underlying foundation from which all else springs. So how do we do this kind of a dream symbol interpretation? I'll tell you how to do it, and then I'll go through an example. So basically, this is a 4-step process, and the first step is basically to write down the narrative. That means, just like you would tell someone what your dream was, or just describe the Mandela effect that you just experienced, you want to put it down in writing. I recommend writing it down in handwriting, cursive if you do that. Write it in a journal. If you'd rather type it, that's fine, but the main thing is get it in writing. And if you do it pretty soon after this occurs, that's better, just like with a dream. Because if too much time goes by, some of the details might slip away, you might forget them. So that's step 1. Step 2, you're going to, on a fresh piece of paper, actually it might be pieces of paper, write down every single key word from that narrative of the Mandela effect. Or you could do this for a dream too. It doesn't matter. So that would be all the nouns, all the verbs, all the adjectives that are significant, anything of any importance. You put that down as a special word on its own on the left-hand side of the page with lots of room to the right, lots of room below for step 3. Step 3, you will be basically going through the whole process of looking at each and every one of these words and doing a free association for it. So you'll think of what comes to your mind. If you're able to do this yourself rather than consult a dream dictionary, that's better. But if you feel like you need help the first time, okay, fine. But the idea is really to get your own subconscious take. So it's always best when you go with whatever first comes to mind when you look at each one of these words. Step 4, the last part, you're going to put it all together, taking all of that free association verbiage and creating a narrative out of that. So how does this work with an example? I'll show you. It works great. I revisited, this is the sundial sculpture at the Berkeley Marina. It's a photograph that I took after an extraordinary event occurred April 26th of 1997 when I was visiting the marina, as I frequently did at that time, with 2 of my good friends that I used to work with. And on that walk, after our brunch, as we usually did, I was talking with them about the subject of reality shifts. That's what I called it in 1997. Remember, there was no term for Mandela effect at the time, but it's the same phenomenon. So I was asking them about this, and as I was asking the question and one of my friends was starting to answer, the other one said, whoa, wait a minute. Have either of you ever noticed or recall seeing that statue here before? And he pointed at a huge, like 16, 17 foot concrete sundial sculpture, right exactly in our path, the course of the walk that we usually did together. There it was, big as life, twice as real, as they say. And it was exactly what I was talking about. I told them, I have seen this sculpture here before, this statue, this sundial, but only when I've been here on my own, not with you two. Now, here I am with you two, and we've been here many times before. It's never been here, and here it is. And we're talking about reality shifts. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Something that appears, disappears, transforms, transports, changes that we notice in people, all these things. And the reason that I want to describe this a little bit more in detail, it gets more interesting. And I did write this down at the time. I describe it in my book, Reality Shifts. I cover it on my website, realityshifters.com. But amazingly, the sundial sculpture also allowed us, when it was gone previously, it had allowed us to see perfectly clearly another statue, which I'm going to show you. It's called the Guardian. And you can see it's this sort of a warrior spirit being riding a lion, kind of a god. And it's also 16 feet tall, also made of concrete. It's huge. And people, my friends did not remember having seen that before. And you can see he's got a bow and he's got an arrow. He's pointed, he's drawing his bow and arrow back, and he's aiming at the Golden Gate Bridge area. So I told my friends that I'd always seen it. I read the inscription on the statue, which had a plaque. It said, "The peoples of the bountiful Pacific Ocean are brought together by the sweep of time. This sundial honors the citizens of Sakai, Japan, the sister city of Berkeley. United in warm friendship and goodwill, the peoples of Sakai and Berkeley strengthen mutual understanding and respect through the exchange of visitors and cultural programs. The sundial is dedicated to the continuing friendship and growing relationship between Sakai and Berkeley, 1970. So I was so impressed that, first of all, this had just shown up when I'm talking about the subject. Secondly, that something this big had been gone and then appeared. And I realized the magnitude of this statue, the sundial, showing up like this. If it could so easily just be gone and then come back, then clearly there's no limit to what these reality shifts, what we now call Mandela effects, can do. So my friends and I marveled in respect and awe at this simultaneously new and relatively old addition to our shared experience of the marina. It had been there about 30 years at that point. I was inspired by the way the three of us were able to share this reality shift experience. So then I did follow up. One of my friends said, "You got to check this out, Cynthia. Find out what's going on. Check with the harbor master," because he was really concerned. This had come up out of nowhere. Remember, it's 1997. There was no Mandela effect topic at all, and I'm just bringing the subject up for the first time as far as my friends know. So I checked with the harbor master at the time in June 1999. It's now about a year and a half later. I checked with Brad Gross. He said he'd been there for 3 years, and he said, as far as he knows, that sundial sculpture had not changed since he'd been there. And he says, "I'm about to celebrate my 3rd year anniversary on the 16th of this month." That was June 1999. "And we haven't done anything to it for 3 years. The sundial does not need adjustment." That's what he said. I also checked with the waterfront manager, that's Cliff Marchetti, regarding the same thing, this appearance of the sundial sculpture. And he said, "It's been here an awful long time, and we haven't done any renovation on it. I kind of remember seeing a plaque on it stating when it was placed there. I've been here 4 years, and it's been there the whole time with no changes." So I learned that year in 1999 that the statue is a good luck archer god. And I found that there's a plaque associated with this sculpture that reads "Guardian" by the artist Frederick Fierstein, and to protect the life spirit. So that's basically it. There's a backstory, a wonderful backstory about how this artist had first seen this sculpture as a 6-inch tall little figurine that had been part of a temple in the Far East, and he felt like people deserved to be able to see this tiny little 6-inch sculpture, big as life, that it really deserved that. And he gifted it to the city of Berkeley, which is another whole huge story. I'm not going to get into that. Let's go into the interpretation of what this is all about. And so the sundial interpretation, remember, that's the narrative is writing this down. I wrote it down, and I've got this on my blog. You can check it there. Step 2. Now we're going to go through the process of pulling out the key terms. That would be the words like brunch, friends, stroll, marina, conversation, reality shifts, sundial, concrete, children, square, archer, statue, horseback, hill, shooting arrow, San Francisco Bay, plaque, sister city, Sakai, Japan, chipped and worn. So those are things that came up when I went through that narrative that I wrote and I pulled out the keywords. For step 3, I'm going to go through it and just get free association, which I'll do. So for that one, for brunch, I got nourishment, relaxation, at ease, resting and digesting, comfort, receptivity. For friends, I got emotional support, encouragement, confidants, mentors. For stroll, leisurely, moving forward, sightseeing, fresh air, sunshine, warmth. For marina, threshold between land and sea, bridging consciousness and the subconscious gateway to other lands. Conversation, friendly dialogue, open communication, discussion, sharing new ideas. Reality shifts, mind-matter interaction. Miracles, anomalies, metaphysical events, extraordinary experiences. Sundial, connection with time and space, attempts to measure time connection between time and space. Concrete, solid, material, physical. Children, future, hope, potential, playfulness, learning, imagination. Square, plaza, society, shared area, community space. Archer, warrior, alert, protective, sharp, specific focus, keen, perception, strong. Statue, respectfully honoring legacy, important individual. Horseback, empowered, independent, sovereign, free. Hill, higher vantage point perspective, higher wisdom, ethical standing, spiritual strength. Shooting arrow, focused attention, specific intention, target. San Francisco Bay, sheltered, access to Pacific Ocean, safe harbor, view of Golden Gate. Plaque, official acknowledgement, recognition, credit, honor. Sister city, friendship, community, support, international, positive relations. Sakai, Japan, seaport, tea, swords, castle, Asia, Eastern thinking. Chipped and worn, weathered, experienced, moving through time. And then step 4, I'm going to put it all together. So when I read through all that, I created the 4th and final step, which is the narrative, the final summary narrative. This is the meaning then of this reality shift, this Mandela effect. Okay, I'll read to you what I put together. In times of ease and comfort, emotional support and encouragement occurs naturally at the threshold between conscious and subconscious thought. In such environments, new ideas about extraordinary experiences and miraculous events can be comprehended as they flow through time and space. What appears to be solid in physical material form appears where it had not been before, in ways that foster playful hope, potential, and imagination in a shared community space. With keen perception and focus, as well as respectful intention, a sovereign sense of higher wisdom and spiritual strength ensures focused attention on ensuring a golden future. Positive relationships of friendship and community serve to unite Eastern and Western ways of thinking in harmonious movement through space and time. And I've got a picture here of that same guardian statue shooting an arrow out toward the Golden Gate Bridge. If you look at it, we see where the Golden Gate Bridge is. You can kind of see it here. It's kind of aimed right there, which is where the Golden Gate Bridge would be, and really is being a guardian of the Golden Gate, the Golden Age. It's extraordinary. So when I'm looking back at this event that occurred about 26 years ago now, we can see the unfolding beauty and richness of meaning present in this Mandela effect. And I'm awestruck, humbled, and amazed by the beauty that unfolded in this moment and by the meaning that we can start to see after more than a quarter century later of Mandela effects that I've been documenting, that I've dedicated my career to. Basically, now all of us are starting to experience these Mandela effects. It's becoming commonplace. It's mainstream. When people do studies and surveys, we're finding a majority of people are, whether they know it or not, remembering things that no longer exist. So all of us are becoming affected by this. And together we have, I recognize that we have greater connection possible for us, greater possible relevance and meaning. And when we look at this example that I'm sharing today of the two statues with the very special message of hope and strength and wisdom and steady focus of ensuring safe passage for humanity, this really is the role of a guardian. As those of us who recognize we're noticing Mandela effects, we then are the guardians of this new golden age. So until next time, thanks for listening. Thanks for looking at these images, and keep asking my favorite question. Hope it's yours too. How good can it get? Love you lots. Take care.